All right, so it's time to talk about marketing ratios. Okay, that's a fancy way of saying how much time am I going to spend with somebody and how much time am I willing to dump into each new patient I have walk through the door. Well, so the first thing that we need to discover is what is my ROI on marketing, right? So if I spend 8 hours in a week marketing, how much new revenue is that going to create for me over the next year? We're only going to look at the next year instead of the lifetime value of a client. We're going to look at the year value of a client. I find that the lifetime value of a client is a little bit more subjective and it's harder to come to. So let's just look at the year value of a client. So my average year value of a client is about $1,500 to $2,000. With you in the beginning, we'll probably be shooting for $800 to $1,600 a year as the value of each new patient, because we'll probably end up getting anywhere from 20 to 40 visits per year for you. Just depend on what kind of treatment plans you want to do and what you want to do with each client. I've found that if somebody likes you, they'll come see you anywhere from 2 times a week to once every month. So it'll just kind of depend on where we're falling in on there. So on this, we're going to be depending on the law of averages. So if we get $40 per visit for 20 visits, so that's, if that's our average, we're looking about $800 value per new client that walks through the door. And if you're averaging 40 visits per client, that's at $1,600. Now, when you're setting up a marketing event, we're looking at the number of people that's at the company, the expected number of people that are going to want the massage or the trigger point therapy, however you want to sell it. And then also if we do an add-on service of like a ergonomic assessment, that's going to increase that value as well. So what we'll look at is, let's start with my normal typical results. So if you have 20 employees at a company, and that's about the minimum that I do, I would expect about 50% of them to be interested in massage. So that's going to be 10 people. If 10 people are interested in massage, in the beginning, I wouldn't be surprised if you are booking 40 to 50% of them. Let's go with 50% just for nice even round numbers. So that'll be 5 people that sign up for an appointment. Out of the 5 people that sign up for an appointment, about 40% of them, 30% of them will show. So that's going to be 1.5 new patients or, 2 new patients. So if you do an event for 10 people at 10 minutes each, that's 100 minutes divided by 60. That's basically 90. So that's like an hour and 40 minutes. Okay. I would not actually schedule an hour and 40 minutes for them. I'd schedule 90 minutes for them. And then when you get to the end, say, hey, was there anybody else we weren't able to get to? Because if so, I can stay for a couple of extra minutes. Now, if you remember the power of persuasion, that small unexpected gift, that increases the value of what you've given them, and it makes you look more credible in their eyes, right? Because you're doing them a favor, and so they feel a reciprocal need to give you a favor back at some point. At least that's the theory, and that's what I've found to be reasonably accurate. So let's look at that. You've got 90 minutes of marketing time in office, and that generated 1.5 people. So if we're doing 8 hours per week, which is what I want you to aim for, times 1.5. So that would be 8 new patients a week coming into the clinic, getting initial exam, x-ray, adjustment, and then potentially coming in for more services. So if you're having 8 new people walk in the door per week at a value of $800 each, that's $6,400 times 52. So like if you are like rock starring it, potentially over time that could end up getting you to a point where you're doing $300,000 of revenue, which honestly, that's what I was doing. So it's not that hard to do with 8 hours of event marketing. Now, is every single one of those events going to be like awesome and get you several new patients that start care? No. So 8 people show up to your clinic, they get the initial visit. Say 40% of them become a regular patient, and so that would leave you with 3 new patients starting care every week. If you have 3 new patients starting care every week, at the end of the year, you'll have had 156 new patients that have started care with a value of $800 each. That's going to be $130,000 of revenue. So just depending on how effective your day 1, day 2 is, based off of marketing for 8 hours a week, which is 4 hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays, going out and doing events, you would reasonably expect to be able to have an income of $100,000 to $300,000 of revenue, just depending on how effective your start ratio is and how good you are at booking. So that means that when you're booking an appointment, you're booking under the amount of time needed by about 10 to 20 minutes. You're going to give them extra time in your schedule, so when you're actually scheduling it, and then you want to make sure that you're booking people to come in at such a pace that you can do a full examination, get them their initial eval history and everything else, and still get your patients taken care of. So with all that said, we'll start talking about some effective scripting and dialoguing at events tomorrow. I think for today, that's probably going to be as many videos as you can watch and like really start looking at and thinking about without it getting a little bit overwhelming. All right, man. Go ahead and watch these. Start thinking about that call dialogue number 1 and 2. Figure out which one you're more comfortable doing, and then write down how you want to do it, and just like how we can make that effective for you. I'll talk to you tomorrow, and have a good evening.